4 to 5 scene memory flash while being hacked to be saved. That's like boom, like flash, flash, flash. There you go. That's all you needed to know. That's how they
Done.
know. Like, all right, we're good.
Yeah. We saved money and you saved time. Hello and welcome to another Damn Anime podcast. My name is Nick and I will be your host. Here with me is my good buddy Joe. Joe, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Another week has come and gone, and now we are here to talk about Nier.
We are here to slog it out again on the Near Fest. So we are on episode 6 now. It's uh it's uh it's it's going different places now from the game. This whole episode. So this is sixth episode and called Lone Wolf. I know you're always so concerned with which of the letters is bracketed. In this one, it's the L for I'm pretty sure no reason whatsoever.
It's the first letter as well, opposed to all the others, which has been all over the place. So
Yes,
we'll
yes,
see how it pans out in the end, just for the fun of it.
yeah.
See if I can force a logic, out of it, like, it all equals to the number 4 or something. We'll see.
Ex- yeah, exactly. It'll probably we can use
Numerology.
numerology, mysticism to probably get to the bottom of that. But we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, so um, I guess I'll go ahead and say that this is a departure from the game. This I believe the events that happen in this episode are covered in the short-lived manga that there was for a little while. So I did manage to read a little bit of that one time, but I put it aside to do something else, as I always do with everything. But I do know a little bit about what happened at the beginning, so maybe I can shed some light on that. Well, yeah, so let's go ahead and kind of get into the happenings of the episode. So the opening of the episode is we see some strange happenings. Looks like kind of found footage, blurry, staticky kind of stuff, and it's revealed that these images that we're seeing are the memories of Lily, who's a character that we have met a couple times, but hasn't been the main star. Really hasn't had much screen time since that second episode. But so it looks
I
like,
like how the first image is of like a computer defragging.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That is a apt comparison there. So they are androids, so it's something kind of going on. But in a weird way, that's sort of what your brain is doing when you're dreaming, which sort of does come up. Quickly, they kind of say that androids don't dream, but apparently they do relive their memories to some degree because while she seems to be sleeping, she's looking at her memories. I don't remember if the game really goes into that very much. Maybe in a side mission that I didn't do, but for what I know, it didn't really. But anyway, so it seems to be Lily's memories, and then after that, the opening credits play, and so you can kind of guess from what we've seen just in those early moments that it's going to be a Lily episode, at least about her, and probably going to have something to do with her past, and so it goes from there. But yeah, so after that, they kind of showed 9S working on this mundane task for launching a hostile life form detection system. 2B and Lily are with him, but 9S seems to separate from them as he goes off to try to kind of finish out this project, and they're kind of slowly following behind, so they are separated a bit, which leaves Lily and 2B alone together to kind of have a bit of a conversation. So Lily kind of takes the chance to ask to be if androids dream. To be just quickly says no, that they don't. And then Lily tells to be about a time when another group of Yorha units came to help the resistance, which she was fighting in at the time. Um, and it was during that time that there was another number two model that looked exactly like 2B um, in that group, which is kind of why Lily is reminded of the story, I guess, because she's looking at 2B and looks exactly like the other person.
She also, it, makes sense because in the when Lily first saw 2B, she made comment about, she knew who that was like right off the bat, more or less. And you didn't understand, they didn't quite explain anything else. She just, it was an offhanded comment, and then followed with partial hostility.
Yeah, you're right. Like Lily held her AK on 2B for a really long time and then let it down. And then what we're about to find out is she kind of that's like or that's like a repeat of what she had seen somebody do in the past. So yeah, I guess we can kind of jump over into that. So basically, they're having sort of this kind of cryptic conversation about dreams and stuff like that. And that's when Lily begins to tell Juby about the story. So that's basically when this flashback starts. Um, she she tells her that this group of Yorha units that they were on a mission to destroy a machine server, which is controlling a bunch of machines, but they were unequipped to complete the mission. Um, and so they kind of met these Yorha units and the resistance squad that Lily was with. They met on in the woods at the edge of the beach, and let's see. So uh,
I'm sorry, I thought that's backwards. I thought the Yorha unit is the one sent out for the mission, and then they ran into the resistance and asked because they were asking them for help because they didn't have the manpower to proceed with their mission.
you have it right. I probably just flubbed my words up. So yeah,
It was just, yeah, it was just switched. Yeah, and so therefore that's when you get to see the new or the original two model or whatever speak, and it's a very different voice than what you're getting with the current 2B.
yeah.
Um,
I wonder if it's the same actress and she's just in a different range.
Yeah, that could easily be the case. I didn't look it up, but she is speaking. Standard 2B is more docile and like monotone, deeper bass, and this one is very much anime female like protagonist voice, like super high pitched, super bubbly. Like she's winning them over with trying to tell them that they need comrades, and it helps. That's like the key phrase that kind of helps break the resistance, tension a little bit. So because then you find out this resistance group is a bunch of essentially survivors from different, smaller factions, and they've kind of just found their way to each other. And it happens to be an all-female unit too.
I guess they do say
Both
that.
the
Yeah.
Yoruha and the resistance are all females.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an all female group, unlike the one that we saw back in episode 2. Yeah. So when they encounter each other, it kind of drops in and just shows them sort of at each other's throats to start. Um, but all the resistance members have their guns pointed at the Yorha units. And for whatever reason, the captain of the resistance decides to trust the Yorha units without really too much of an explanation. The only explanation that Lily gives is that there's some kind of a humanistic, truthful desperation to the number two units, please, and so they decided to trust.
I looked at it as so that resistance leader name is Rose, which going by another flower. So
Yeah,
Rose passed the command to Lily. But what happens is it makes it look like essentially because they've lost all their friends, and they're essentially just they mentioned it's a war of attrition. So one by one their group is dying out, and essentially they kind of realize that they're going to have to swing big, or pretty much just give up and die. because so they're deciding to participate with the Yorha units to go ahead and try to stop the advancing fleet in the Pacific. You don't know where you are in this map. You just know that you're somewhere on a Pacific rim, and so therefore they're trying to, by shutting down the server, they'll shut down the advancements of the units coming ashore.
Right.
And without doing that, they're going to be wiped out eventually.
Yeah. So the thing with this, maybe I can shed some light on some of the stuff you brought up. So the manga that I'm familiar with is called the Pearl Harbor Descent Mission. So it takes place on Hawaii. And I remember like reading the beginning of that, and there is a number two unit. It kind of that kind of has a similar beginning to the beginning of the game, the beginning of the anime that we saw, where they're kind of just getting annihilated. And they end up on the beach with basically their captain dead, and the number two unit basically gets thrown in as the commander. But at the time that I was reading the manga, I was like, this is like 2B, like, but it doesn't act like anything like the character in the game. I just wrote it off as being like a younger version of the same character, someone that's not battle hardened yet. But it's revealed to me um, through the anime now that it's a different 2B, or it's a different number two unit. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I just got a bad translation, or I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, so they are on Hawaii, and eventually they're going to be on a mountain called Kaala, which I don't remember if that's a real spot, but probably is, and I just don't remember. Anyway, so there's a little bit of that. So for some reason they're on Hawaii, and for some reason, I guess we don't know truly where we are in the other, like, later flash forward parts of the anime. We don't know exactly what part of the world that they're in. I guess we can assume maybe Japan or something like that. Because
Yeah, you can also maybe even say California coast because you got everything from the desert to woodland, and everything in between.
yeah, that makes
So
sense.
it kind of, you could, if you wanted to, play it that way, but also this is upteen thousands of years of in the future, post war and all that. So who knows, how many black boxes have eradicated how much of the landscape, so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, it's impossible to know probably unless there's some secret spot where they told us. But yeah, so the question I kind of have, which doesn't have anything to do with the episode, but is how did Lily make it from Hawaii uh, to wherever they are, which I would find interesting, but maybe it's not that interesting of a story. I don't know. Anyway, so so
A boat.
a boat,
There's your
yeah, probably a boat or something like that. So yeah, so let's see, kind of getting back on track here. Um, so basically, the two groups are merged, and they start to travel together, and are slow to become allies. They're kind of bickering with each other and kind of competing against each other. But the thing that seems to change that is that when they're stopped for a rest, Lily randomly, we don't really see how, I don't think, but she kind of randomly gets this thing that they've mentioned before, which is a logic virus. Her eyes begin to blink red, and she seems to go insane in some way. Uh, the It seems that for the resistance, the protocol is to kill anyone who gets a logic virus in order to stop it from spreading and to stop them from killing everybody else around them. However, the Yorha units seem to be able to cure it, and so they start to attempt to do that.
Yeah, it's more or less, the equivalent of a zombie outbreak. It's just, but in the, they apparently they have the equipment needed to, autocorrect that virus. They only hint at it a little bit, and they mentioned that the pods can do similar in the beginning as well.
Oh yeah, they do. Something that they show the way that they show that they're able to cure Lily from the logic virus is another one of the Yorha units seems to have a hacking ability similar to that of 9S. They just kind of show that it's a similar sort of thing that's going on there. So that seems to have, so that tells me that they have that, but that the resistance does not have hacking abilities or skills because of the type of unit that they are. So anyway, it's kind of just an interesting maybe put two and two together on that. Um,
Yeah, also the during the hack though, to try to, save Lily, that's when you get a few glimpses into her past. Uh there's so the unit that is currently doing the hack sees essentially Lily being tied up and strangled by a different just a different unit of some sort. You're not given much. They're just, but yeah, she's bound and being choked out, and that's when Rose comes in and kills the assault and saves Lily. And so because of that, she kind of has this idolization of Rose.
yeah, that must be the reason. Yeah, I meant to go back and freeze frame that, but I forgot to kind of see what was going on there. Because yeah, so that seems to shed a little bit of light on their past and why they're close. But they are able to rescue Lily, cure her from the logic virus, and it seems like that's kind of a turning point. The two sides seem to coalesce a bit more. Um, so then it flashes forward from that point, and it shows that basically the whole group is jumping ahead is now making this attack on the server, but there seems to be 300,000 machines in the area. So they kind of jump back and show Lily and 2B kind of walking around somewhere. I guess they're still following 9S as he's trying to finish up with his
Um,
mission.
9S had to go back to fix an error on one of the early, like the number two device that he
Oh,
implanted,
oh
because
yeah,
he's like all the way back there, and so that's why he goes backwards. And then they're just like, okay, we'll just go forward.
yeah. That
So
must
that's
be
kind of,
good.
I don't know, that's just kind of it, and that's why he doesn't come in until the very end. They don't show him till like they're pretty much done talking. Uh,
Yeah, it's a pretty dour episode overall. So I could tell pretty much immediately. Okay, they're gonna use 9S to infuse a little bit of comedy, early on, and then the rest is probably not going to be funny at all. But that seems to be the way that a lot of these episodes go. So yeah, so um,
Yeah,
that
they're pinned down at this point, and those, the from the Pacific, there's, the 300,000 units coming at them, and so they're radioing for more reinforcements, and you see the commander kind of just standing there, gritting her teeth, but not speaking up, while the operator up in front is saying, "This is, these are the instructions for the commander, and you're going, it's like just proceed with the mission." So yeah, they get no help once again, and that's the common thing is the moon don't send anything about, they don't care, and that was pretty much all you get, and then they disconnect from them, saying, pretty much, finish your mission or die, that either one. So and that's when they start to lose people, because that's when it's like typical movie fashion. You know, like, some people go out early, unexpectedly, and then everyone has to then slowly make the heroic last stand to buy other people time.
Yeah, only it's like compressed into about like 3 minutes, so it's very like, oh, okay, they're kind of just getting blown away. They still do a pretty good job of kind of kind of showing it, making it not quite like comical or anything like that. They make it pretty serious, but about the kind of being denied. So I do remember from the beginning of the manga of this story, before they meet the resistance members. The Yorha units crash on the planet, and they're like, hey, well, there's only four of us left. Like, we can't complete the mission, and so they radio up to the base, and the base tells them the same thing that they're telling them here. Like, well, keep carrying on with the mission, and they're like, we're gonna die. So
Yeah,
it seems to be a
they
motif.
make reference to that in the beginning of the episode too, when they first meet up with the Resistance. They say that they crashed, and that's why they needed the help. But they're trying to plead with that Resistance group,
Yeah,
um, because it's more than a 4-man mission. So yeah,
yeah,
apparently it's only like 12 needed or something like that. So
yeah. There were a lot that was started out in the manga. So yeah, yeah, they die one by one as they're making assault on this server. But they do manage to get inside of the facility, and kind of long story short, the Captain Rose, ultimately ends up sacrificing herself to accomplish the mission and seemingly to save Lily.
yeah, she does, you're given she is wounded is what they tell you. And so you're led to believe that she's probably just mortally wounded, so she's going to also make the heroic last stand. But for the two other prior Yodoha units, when things get serious, they decide to take off their blindfolds so you can get a good look at their face before they go off into the blaze of glory, which I found kind of funny. Yeah, it's I don't know, like I said, it is it's a sweet little like Hollywood moment, yeah, that's like we're not going to go down that easy, and we're going to buy you some time, and it's just like, all right, but one of the things I did find interesting is the one that actually cured Lily. She actually gets infected by the logic virus, and one of the other resistance members, decides to stand by her because they're going to be needed to bring the elevator down. And then what happens? You don't know if necessarily she's going to assist with possibly executing her as well. Uh, but
Yeah.
they do make an offhanded comment saying, "Well, she should hopefully be able, like, she should be able to, like, fix herself." But then the other one still needs to operate the elevator. But at the same time, right before the elevator went down, they were literally the enemy was banging at the door and like making dents into the armor plating. So they're about to be overrun. But that way they don't go out alone. Essentially,
Yeah, maybe that was kind of the ultimate part of it. Like the way that I thought about it was like, okay, the person that is able to cure logic viruses just got a logic virus. So to me, it's like they need to be put down because there really is no other way. But also, yeah, there's machines coming in, and somebody needs to do the elevator. Yes, that's probably all of the above, or maybe something more specific that I wasn't able to read into. But yeah, they it kind of there's definitely some um, somber goodbyes and some sad sort of friendship sort of scenes that happen there as they all go out. But Lily does manage to survive, and they show the fields of inert machines as they have been able to shut down the server. And Lily kind of she shoots her gun and stuff like that. And I hate it when they do this in shows and movies. It's like, no, save the bullets. Like you.
yeah. Okay. So I hate that too, but at the same time, so one thing you glossed over real quick was earlier on they talk about how Lily has a pistol and she doesn't like it because it seems
Oh,
childish.
perfect. Yeah, yeah,
But at the very end, when Rose throws her in the elevator, she takes Lily tries to end her own life. She blames herself, and so Rose takes the pistol but gives her the AK, and that way, saying essentially, it's like it's a gift to remember her by, slash, like she wants her to fight on, live on, all the cheesy stuff that you get with all these scenes. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, she's wasting her bullets, but there is literally no one left alive. Uh, and to answer your question, how she made it to the mainland, she built a boat out of the dead units. That is easily done. I mean, there was
yeah,
a lot of them, 300,000 to be exact.
yeah. There's probably enough to
So
to build some kind of thing to get out of there. But you're right. Like the shooting in the gun into the air was more a cathartic moment because yeah, she started out with the little pistol, and then by the end, she was given the big girl machine gun, and so it kind of symbolized her growing up and becoming kind of battle hardened, which is the Lily that we see in the future in the I guess the present of the TV show. We're seeing a Lily that is not really afraid of anything, is not still not quite so talkative, but definitely a lot more confident in what she chooses to do and the way she chooses to act.
Yeah, for sure. Then, it essentially goes back to, the current present time, and you're seeing 2B just, talking, and she makes this offhanded comment about, wouldn't like something like, wouldn't it be nice if you're if any of any of the comrades you didn't see at the end, because you don't know what happened to the last handful of units. She says that all she says is Rose was injured. She doesn't quite remember, and then she got thrown in the elevator. They don't say what happened to the number 2 unit, or there was another Yoroha unit that had she only had one eye covered. Everyone else had like the two eyes covered with the cloth. And so you don't know what happened to essentially the last three, Rose or the two Yoroha units. You just know that they succeeded. And so 2B says, "Wouldn't it be nice if like some of them survived?" And then it shows a clip of in the woods a bunch of dead, machine life forms, and what looks like Shovel Knight running at this
Oh,
one with
yeah,
really long silver hair, or like white hair, and then she just essentially uh, quick dodges it and kills it in one fell move. So I'm like, but it seriously looks like Shovel Knight.
it does. Yeah, it does. The dude looks like Shovel Knight. So yeah, uh,
But you do get to see a birthmark, which is the one physical trait of the number 2 units. So you're led to believe that it's possibly the original number 2 unit that is now has grown their hair out long. So which makes you wonder how much of them actually grow, because do they have fingernails? The Lily from the past looked smaller, but it just might be the demeanor of her mentality. But she
yeah,
literally, compared to Rose, was she would hide behind her often enough,
yeah.
and
She
then,
was
like
like literally
unless if
hiding behind her. Yeah,
unless if Lily's only like I don't know 4'8" or something, she just might be a tiny resistance member. I don't know. Um, so that's kind of unique there too. So but it's potentially there's the number 2 unit still alive and still like fighting.
yeah, yeah. I think that they, yeah, there's so. This is a character. If you played the game, you definitely know who this character is that they're revealing at the end, and it's pretty cool. It's definitely exciting to see her finally come into it. But yeah, so we're kind of introduced to her already in like, basically like 4 seconds of screen time as a badass. You can put two and two together on it, and that's what I like about this show so far is that they are doing a really good job of showing like a few seconds of something and showing like all of this, like telling all this story in just a little bit of time, just enough to get you to have a good sense of who you're looking at without belaboring the point or having to like just give it to like someone saying, "Did you know that this person did this thing?" Blah 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 blah. It's like it's much cooler to be shown that than just told by some voice actor. So I like that. But yeah, so then that ends, and we get a little bit different ending kind of animation.
Yeah,
Uh,
the ending credit scene is different for a change. I was going to mention the same thing. Yeah, you see the entire Resistance member cast one by one, like as they slowly pan up and they start to disappear. As they go to the bottom of the screen, they kind of fade out because they're all dead. And then they
yeah.
show the next one.
So
But
it's a
then
little bit
at
of
the
an
very end,
it's a little bit of a homage paid to them, kind of like sort of a remembrance, I guess.
yeah. And then at the very end, you see a Lily reaching up to the skies, and then the camera, turns, and then essentially it's her young self, and then her adult self, them reaching hands essentially. So it's kind of that. So
Yeah, yeah. You had to watch all the way through that to get that sort of odd little scene there, but very poignant. I like that kind of stuff. It's a it's a good way to really, I don't know, make your, it's a little extras that seem to kind of be a little cherry on top for the episode. Speaking of cherries on top, the puppet show comes next at the end, and seems to be, mocking the last episode, which I'm starting to see kind of a pattern here where they do, something serious, and then the next episode they just kind of mock it, which is always fun. But it's Adam, the puppet Adam, reading a book about fishing, and Eve is annoying him with questions and asking him to do stuff, and they figure out a way to show some risque drawings in there.
Well,
Again,
because the puppets are so detailed. I mean, and so this time, Eve is dressed in a traditional male sailor uniform. So it has the black suit with the gold buttons, and then you have Adam, who's more of the modern or contemporary, like blazer and tie school uniform, and that's he's like explaining we have to wear these because that's what the humans did for learning, essentially because they're now cosplaying as students,
yeah,
and yeah, so the entire time Eve keeps on just calling him Nichan again and again and again, to the point where he just Adam just zones out, doesn't pay attention to him, and he focuses 100% on the book, and then disappears, and to become a fisherman.
yeah. He says something really weird before he leaves. He says this cryptic thing. It's like mackerels bite with every cast, and then that's when he like disappears, and the post credits words say he went off to become a fisherman, I guess, and that's the end. And yeah, bye. It's just like done. Yeah. So I guess
Yeah, it's
we
not really. Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, it's not really necessarily a bad ending, per se. It's just
yeah.
your antagonist just gives up and lives the fisherman life. So
Yeah,
because
it's like I guess we don't have a story since we don't have an antagonist anymore. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess you would have to basically be like, well, we're done, you know. Um, so yeah, that marks the end of the final end of the episode. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty solid episode. They're still going along with the vignettes type thing, but they're able to string stuff together fairly well. Um, Overall, compared to the other episodes, how did you like this one?
yeah, this was overall all in all good, like start to finish. I mean, yeah, a little cheesy points here and there, but it had enough backstory, enough action, enough dialogue, and it's they crammed what could have been like a 2 or 3 episode story arc into one episode, which I found that I actually like that speed and the pacing because you don't have to linger on things too long, you don't have to milk it out too long. Just like it was I may have, slightly poked fun at it, but them saying their goodbyes essentially was, um, it's like, you know what? That's fine. You don't have to milk this out for too long.
Yeah,
It's just, you don't have to really show this entire montage of them bonding, like to get, from going from enemies to friends to like brothers in arms. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You did it in the right pacing and you showed everything you needed to. We got the hint. And yeah, you're not really I prefer the speed of storytelling over the slow bits of the first, or the second episode, I should say,
oh yeah,
mostly because yeah, I feel like I'm getting more out of it. I mean, if you're trying to make it an art piece, episode 2 would be more artsy that way, but
yeah.
I'm like, time is limited. You only have so many episodes. It sucks, but unless if you're gonna be doing, unless if that's the whole show, like that's how you're really gonna do it. I mean, like I said, and a one-off episode is fine.
Look,
But thank God they're not doing it for every episode because I would lose my mind.
if this show had um, if this show had Attack on Titan money, then what we just saw would be probably would be a whole season. I mean, we got to be honest. Like that whole thing would be like, well, let me tell you about the time when this happened, and they would just like go back for like 5, 6, 10 episodes
Oh,
and
yeah.
show the whole
It would have
thing.
been a full episode of how Rose, saved Lily and how their very first encounter, opposed to a literal 4 to 5 scene memory flash while being hacked to be saved. That's like boom, like flash, flash, flash. There you go. That's all you needed to know. That's how they
Done.
met. Like, all right, we're good.
Yeah, we saved money and you saved time.
Yeah, for
That is
sure.
what
I
we
mean,
wanted.
there really isn't, like that's the thing is all of our times are limited. Respect it and go
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah. So yeah, so we're 6 episodes in. Um it looks like we probably have a good bit to go. I think that the show is going to get more than 12 episodes. I could be wrong. Maybe just this season will get 12. But I think the show overall, at least the story is not going to be told in 12. It doesn't look like it to me. I could be wrong though, but we'll see. But yeah, all in all, pretty good. Yeah. Anything else that you want to bring up?
no, we pretty much covered it all. So I mean, it's looking forward to the next episode. This one was a decent one, despite it not actually progressing any current story. It does shed a little more insight to to their past. Uh, Explains a little more about the units, and even that just that little tidbit of the commander being upset and having essentially for who knows how long constantly having to. Um, Watch her subordinates die and choke down the like up the anger it seems for not being able to actually help them out. But I mean, I've been kind of speculating this for a while now for the last couple episodes
Mm.
that I mean it's one of those far left theories of being well maybe the moon slash the actual headquarters is playing both sides, and they're trying to make a forced evolution. That is me really throwing something out into the wind, but being like, yeah, you know what? If I'm gonna have to come up with a conspiracy theory of some sorts, I'm like, I can totally see them being like, well, we're kind of constantly have them fighting, trying the Yoroha units going against obscene numbers, obscene situations, watching them try to evolve, because hey, so long as they can move their consciousness, that really does help. Uh, and just to see how see what things come from it. At the same time, you have your resistance members who should all theoretically be wiped out by now. As far as they've not gotten any backup, they've been having a war of attrition for how long now, and yet they're still sticking around. But you need a common enemy. You need it for them to fight, and then you still, but by if they're all wiped out, you can't get any resources. So that seems a little odd. I don't know. There's a lot of missing loopholes. So I'm like, well, if they're controlling both sides, and trying to see if their minions can evolve into a higher form, or if their Yoroha units can be the peak of evolution, because currently they've already gotten the machine life forms to go from hostile to to peaceful, and also to evolve themselves to Adam and Eve. And they make reference to potential other units in the future when you heard the disembodied voice talking. And also, how did they know they're Adam and Eve? I mean, because the Adam and Eve would have given that name to themselves. No
Yeah,
one told Adam and Eve who their names are, or at least you're not shown that. And so how does the moon know what their names are?
that's a good point. Because Adam and Eve didn't say that when they were
They didn't
fighting.
introduce themselves the moment that one of them was born, stabbed, and then the other one birthed from them. We're like, ta-da, we're Adam and Eve, yo, we're out. I mean, it's literally the next
Peace.
episodes. The moon talks about these weird life forms, Adam and Eve, and any others in that you might come across. And then the next scene, they're talking to each other, at the table, and they're saying Adam, Eve, blah 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 blah. So that's I'm like, well, that's really suspicious to say the least.
Yeah, I don't remember how they figured that out in the game either. But you bring up a good point. It's like this is sort of you've may have found like a plot a plot hole, um, which I'm sure Yoko.
It'll be answered. It's something
the-
he accidentally screwed up on. Answered it in some like phone book or something like that. Thrown to the curb.
Some like near sponsored phone book. Yeah, it's probably
Some
that's what I was
ad
gonna
on page
say.
42.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is Yoko Taro? has probably answered that with some ticky tack bullshit. Like, oh, yeah, they have sensors and they're listening to Adam and Eve talk. And so that's how they know what they're calling themselves. Yeah,
There's canon material in their art book, if I remember correctly.
there
Just
is.
like you'd see character information or something like that, and like that was never talked about, but it's in the art book, and that's canon, and that's what you need to know. I'm like, what the hell? So
Yeah, there's, I mean, you know, there's some stuff that's canon from different games and stuff. And I was reading around on Reddit, some people kind of talking about it, like, is, it's like, this is canon too. That's canon. Oh, that's it. Like, there's some stuff from the first game and the kind of the two versions of the first game that came out. And the reasons why there's two versions is that there's like a canon reason. But if you start like looking at it, it's just like, this is nonsense. It doesn't. You can tell that it's Yoko Taro trying to make the people who bought like the game that's not really canon, which is the Xbox game. You can tell it's him trying to make those people feel good about the game that they bought. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't the reasoning doesn't really hold up, but it's like, I'm just glad that they try. It's good that they at least care enough to make up some kind of bullshit explanation. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us here on this Nier episode 6 Lone Wolf discussion cast. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
take it easy, guys.
Bye.